You have to check the freaking camera.
I just check the camera.
You check the camera.
Check the cameras.
Hey y'all, it's Elisa with Elisa Marie Bakes again. And you may be wondering why my hair is so high. Well, there's two reasons. One is the higher the hair, the closer to God. And two, I'm making my mama's cornbread and she is the closest person to God I know. So we are gonna make my mama's cornbread today. Now it's very important to me. No, it's not. This is gonna be something that, I mean, if you're from the South like I am, you serve with a pot of beans. This is gonna be a great side dish for any meal that you do, fancy or not. I know that it's like barely March, but it's going to be perfect in Thanksgiving for you to make and then dry it out and make stuffing out of it. It's delicious. You know what? Why are we waiting until November? Let's just make stuffing in June. Stuffing's delicious. We should have it year round. Stuffing for every meal in the world. At all times, stuffing constantly. Made of cornbread. I feel like I've gone off the rails.
You got a little off the rails.
If you ask anyone that was raised in the South, who makes the best cornbread? Every single person you come across says their mom. But my mom really does make the best cornbread, and I'm gonna share that with you today. The recipe link will be down below. It will also be in my blog, you know. The first thing that we need to do, set your oven to 425. We are going to take whatever vessel you wanna cook it in. This will do a perfect 9x9 baking pan. What I'm going to do mine in is an 11-inch cast iron skillet. And what is special about this is that this has been in my husband's family for over 100 years. So this is a 100-year-old cast iron skillet that is just hefty and non-stick, and it is amazing, and I am so grateful that I get to use this. This actually, what you guys don't know, is this was her kitchen. So my husband's grandma, this was her kitchen that she used, and this is what I bake out of every day. And so I get to share my mom's recipes and my grandma's recipes along with my husband's grandma's cookware, and that is exactly what I'm about. That's exactly what Elisa Marie Baking is. So the first thing we're gonna do, set the oven to 425, and we are going to take 3 tablespoons of shortening. I use a non-fat vegetable shortening because that's what I grew up on. And you are going to place this into the 425-degree oven while you mix everything. Easily done. What that's gonna do is that's gonna melt the shortening. That's going to give a really good nonstick coating onto whatever vessel you're using. And that is also going to be put into the recipe, which we're gonna start now and is very easy. I've said easy a lot. It is probably the most simple recipe I've ever done that gives me the best results. It's always delicious. So we are going to start with 2 1/4 cups of cornmeal. And I just literally buy cornmeal straight out of the store, but just make sure it says cornmeal. To that, we're going to add 3/4 of a cup of flour, 1/4 of a teaspoon, plus 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking soda. It's important for me to say that this recipe is very specifically made for the pan that I have. This can be easily done in 1/3. This can easily be measured up. So if it sounds weird that I'm doing 1/4 of a teaspoon and 1/8 of a teaspoon, it is kind of weird, but this matches my pan exactly. So thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Then we add 3 teaspoons of baking powder. We're also going to do 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Get that all in there. Guess what? You're halfway done. So I'm gonna take a little whisk, do a little whisk around to combine the ingredients and make sure we don't have any lumps. The next thing we're gonna do is set that aside. I have got 3 cups of buttermilk. Now you'll notice that every episode I've done so far has buttermilk. Stay tuned because every episode I will do has buttermilk. Literally, all 6 episodes have buttermilk. So if you don't have buttermilk on hand, please watch episode 1 and I will show you how to make a substitution for buttermilk that is exactly what you need. So we've got 3 cups of buttermilk. To that, we're gonna add 3 eggs. I'm gonna go ahead and beat the eggs a little, and that's just to break them up. I'm gonna add it directly to my buttermilk. Stick my little whisk in there and just go at it. I know that I talked to you last episode about making sure everything is at room temperature. When you're trying to level up your baking, the number one thing is making sure that all of your ingredients are the same temperature. You're not making pie dough, you're not making pastry, so make sure that you've got your buttermilk out for, I leave it overnight, at least a couple of hours. You've got your eggs out for a couple hours, everything is the same temperature, and that's going to help it blend. If you think about pastry, the main reason pastry works is that you have a room temperature dough with a cold butter on top of it, and then room temperature dough, cold butter on top of it. The butter that's cold is what evaporates. So when you want a fully homogeneous recipe and everything is together and it's blended and it's perfect, you want room temperature. And I brought this up in the last episode when we did red velvet. Just make sure that you put it out the day before, you'll be golden. So we're just mixing the eggs into the buttermilk. And it doesn't have to be perfect, as you can see. I am gonna take a brief second just to check our pan. We are looking for the shortening that we put in there to be completely melted and the cast iron to be hot, which it definitely is because it's been in a 425 oven. And we are going to finish mixing this up and pour it right in, and I will show you. So we've got our cornmeal dry mixture. We are just mixing our wet and dry. Remember when I said this was the easiest thing in the world? If you're not from the South and you thought that cornbread was difficult, this is it. This is it. You're making cornbread. You're over there like, I don't know what to do. How do I make? This is it. This is why we eat so much cornbread in the South, because it's so easy to make. And we love it. You got it all mixed together. It's homogeneous. One of the things I want to point out, I am Southern. I just make cornbread, which I'm going to put in the pan. However, there is 0 sugar in it. Where I'm from, cornbread does not have sugar. If it is sweet, you are a Yankee. If it is sweet, you are not from the South, is how I was raised. That being said, please feel free, if that's your preference, to add a couple tablespoons of sugar, but I do want to leave you with one of my favorite quotes. It's by a Southern comedian named Louis Gizzard. Anybody who puts sugar in their cornbread is a heathen who doesn't love the Lord. I'm not here to judge you, that's for God to do. Let's go get our pan out of the oven. I'm just kidding. Let's get our oven mitt and then go get our pan out of the oven. You see how that's smoking? That's what you want it to do. This is going to give a little extra coating on the cast iron skillet. It is also going to help your cornbread start up. Swirl it around in your cast iron skillet. Put the rest in your cornbread. See how that's already thickening up? That's what you want. Put this back in the sink. We are going to pop the cornbread right into the pan. Oh, you hear that? I'm already excited. Do you see these little edges where that's already bubbling? That's already starting to cook from the hot pan and the hot shortening. Put your glove back on, throw it in the oven. This is gonna cook in my oven at 425. It cooks for 20 minutes. So while that is cooking, my dad's dad, Grandpa Charlie, and my dad's Grandpa Dink, had buttermilk at every single meal. One of their little snacks, their meals, was they would take the cornbread and they would crumble it up into the buttermilk and mix it together and eat it like that. I've never drank buttermilk by itself, but I will be today on camera for the first time. So we're gonna see how that goes. So once it's cooked for 20 to 25 minutes, what you're looking for is the middle. If you're checking it with the skewer like we did for the last 2 episodes, if you've seen that, it comes out clean. It's gonna be brown on the top, brown on the sides, because you've worked so hard to get that beautiful crust. And this is what it's gonna look like. Ooh, oh, cornbread. Look right here where we have this beautiful brown crust, and where it comes up right here, that's because we preheated that pan and we put that Crisco in and it cooked it a little bit, and that's the best part. So I have literally made this cornbread recipe for as long as I can remember, literally my entire life. To me, this is the absolute perfect cornbread. And if you're looking for a perfect cornbread, this is your recipe. Serve it with chili, serve it with beans, serve it by itself, put a little slab of butter in the middle. But I, for the first time, I'm so nervous. For the first time, I'm gonna eat it how my Grandpa Dink and my Grandpa Charlie ate it, and I'm gonna have it crumbled into buttermilk. Like I said, it's very Southern for people to drink buttermilk, and I mean good buttermilk too, not just regular buttermilk. And when I say they drank buttermilk, I mean literally they just drank buttermilk at dinner. So I'm gonna try this, we'll see how it goes. I'm kind of a little bit nervous. Oh God, oh God. Oh God.
Wow, that's chunky.
That's so chunky. So my mama, when I talked to my mama, she said the buttermilk has got to be freezing cold. So this is literally as cold as I can get the buttermilk. And then you just crumble in cornbread. My Grandpa Charlie is my dad's dad, and he was just super competitive. Like we would play dominoes with him, and he would yell at me if I put my dominoes in the spot he thought he wanted his dominoes to go. And my Grandpa Dink is actually on my dad's mom's side, my great grandpa. And he would say, his biggest quote was, well, there were two. Never let the truth get in the way of a good story, which I have followed my entire life. And the other thing he would say is we'd all be in the little foyer at his house, and he would go, Elizabeth, you are my favorite great granddaughter. And the only appropriate response was for us to go, thank you, Grandpa Dink. What can I do for you? Because that was his way of asking you to do something for him. So because I'm nervous, I'm not gonna start with this. I'm gonna take a little bite of just plain my mama's cornbread. I grew up on this. It's amazing. Like to me, this just tastes like home. Sorry, I'm talking with my mouth full. This tastes like, this straight up tastes like home to me. Like growing up in the South, every meal, every holiday, every family meal, like this is, am I gonna cry? This is growing up taste of my youth to me. This is really, really good. Please make it and relive my youth. This is so good. Now I'm gonna try, with my mouth full, cornbread and buttermilk. When you grow up a little bit poor, I mean we were poor, in the South, you make meals out of whatever you have. And there was always buttermilk because buttermilk is left over from when you make butter. And there's always cornbread because cornmeal was cheaper than flour during the Depression. And this was a snack, a meal, a breakfast, whatever they needed it to be. So this is for my family, both sides, who grew up eating this in the South after the Depression and made do with everything they have so that I can have everything I have now. Actually, it's not bad. Like, it makes sense to me. It's like, there's a little sweet from the buttermilk. The dryness of the cornbread, it's actually kind of good. I don't know if I recommend doing the cornbread in the buttermilk, but I absolutely recommend doing the cornbread. You've got to make this cornbread. Your family's gonna love it. It's gonna be a tradition for you, and soon it's gonna taste like home for you too. Please like, subscribe, save. This is only my 3rd episode, and I'm so proud of everything that I'm making, and I'm so excited to share my family with you. Enjoy, share, love everything. Bake everything. If you have any questions, please just send me a message. I will answer your questions for you. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you tuning in, and you guys are wonderful, and I will see you next time.